So that's the front row of the grid lined up. Tom Stoughton in the blue car, Neil Burrows in the largely green and white car. Row 2 of the grid is the grey and blue and black machine of Michael Gibbons, alongside the largely red and black car of Dominic Lesniewski. And then third row of the grid is James Barwell. His is the blue with the lighter blue flashes to it, and alongside him he's got the white and green and black and yellow car in the hands of Joshua Law, who finished third in the Duratec Championship last year. So last row of the grid just coming into position now, and the flag will be waved at the tail end of the field. There's a green flag at the tail end of the field, so the revs begin to rise, and for the first time this season, the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship here at Donington Park. Lights go out, race gets underway. It's a good start from the outside of the front row of the grid from Neil Burrows. Has he got enough in hand now to dispose Tom Stoughton? The two of them run side by side, in fact 3 wide, as Dominic Lesniewski looks to try and work his way through and past, and has managed to do so, but then runs wide coming out of the corner. So it's Tom Stoughton that is down into, I think, second position, as Neil Burrows has been able to hang on to the lead of the race. It's Neil Burrows that's taken up the lead of the race. Tom Stoughton is already down into second position. Dominic Lesniewski's there in third place, but has got Michael Gibbons sniffing around him as they went through Old Hall Court, the old hairpin for the first time, and as they then work their way out of the old hairpin under Starkey's Bridge and up towards Schwantz Curve, you can see that already Neil Burrows is just starting to sprint away here. Neil Burrows, who didn't do the full season last year, finished 11th in the Duratec Championship standings, looking to try and get his championship season for 2021 off to the best possible start. I think everybody is safely through the first few corners. The Pinto engine cars and the historic engine cars towards the tail end of the field working their way through. Side by side for third and fourth place, as Michael Gibbons came under attack there from Lesniewski, who was looking to try and muster his way through. Nothing doing. Lesniewski has got right behind him the car of Joshua Law, and Joshua Law's coming under attack from Paul Traherne as well. So great little quartet of cars fighting over what is third, fourth, fifth and sixth places, whilst the leading pair just sprint away now. Neil Burrows and Tom Stoughton have already managed to gap the quartet that sits behind, that's still being headed by the reigning Duratec champion, proudly carrying the number 1, Michael Gibbons. Through the old hairpin, starting to work their way back uphill once more through Schwantz Curve and up towards McLean's Corner, with the pair out front already having got the best part of nearly a 2-second gap between themselves and that number 1 car of Michael Gibbons, who can't shake away Dominic Lesniewski, who qualified in 4th place and at the moment is bottled up there in 4th place. Still a gun 1-2. The first of the MCR cars sitting there in 3rd position at the moment, as now the attack for the lead looked as though it was about to shape its way up, but it was just too far back, Tom Stoughton, so couldn't quite get himself up onto terms, and that's problems, I'm afraid to say, for Peter Williams. His car crawling its way around the circuit. He qualified just outside of the top 10, 14th in qualifying, but problems have besieged the Welshman early on out of Redgate Corner. Neil Burrows still just doing enough. Tom Stoughton pushing as hard as he can to see if there's any sort of chink in the armour that he can try and exploit. In 3rd place, Michael Gibbons has now pulled away a little bit from Dominic Lesniewski, so he's almost on his own now, Gibbons, so he can start to begin to focus his efforts, no longer on his mirrors and what he needed to do. He can focus his efforts on the road ahead and try and catch this pair. Fastest lap of the race on the first of the flying laps is not a slow one either from Tom Stoughton in his pursuit of the race leader. At 1 minute 9.7 is only 0.2 of a second off the lap record here at Donington Park that's held by a driver that's not out with us this weekend, Patrick Sherrington. Lap record for the Duratec cars is a 1 minute 9.5. So 1 minute 9.7 on the first flying lap is not slow at all, aided by maybe a bit of a slipstream off Neil Burrows, who is the race leader. Is there anything this time through that Tom Stoughton can do? He's looking to try and work his way alongside. Neil Burrows is a little bit defensive this time going in towards Redgate Corner. Tighter line in. Tom Stoughton might he try and switch back on the exit and get a run coming on towards Hollywood. He's going to try it, but it doesn't work. So he tries the outside for the first part of the Craner Curves, which will give him the inside line for the second part. They are side by side through the Craner Curves, and Tom Stoughton picks up the lead of the race now. So Tom Stoughton, the pole sitter at the wheel of the gun TS11, picks up the lead of the race. The TS12 of Neil Burrows drops down into second position and has already lost a couple of car lengths all of a sudden. Now, Michael Gibbons has now just posted a fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 9.399. That is the new overall lap record for a Duratec car around the Donington Park National Circuit. Michael Gibbons is not done and dusted with that yet. He wants to try and work his way up into second place if he can, because all of a sudden Neil Burrows just seems to have slowed, and also slowing, I'm afraid to say. That is David Houghton's car, by the look of things, that stopped right at pit lane entry, so he's waving his hands to forewarn everybody that there's an issue. The marshals should hopefully be able to, in a gap in the traffic, get up and push that car in towards the pit lane and get him out of harm's way. So there's just localised yellow flags at the moment. Lead 3 drivers up towards Redgate corner. We can still see Josh Law fighting away with Paul Traherne. The black car of Paul Traherne still sitting in 6th position, car number 71. Can't quite manage to work his magic as yet. So Josh Law, who finished 3rd in the Duratec standings last year, under pressure from Paul Traherne at the wheel of yet another gun. As they then tumble their way down through in towards the old hairpin, I'm afraid to say, because of the position of what looked like David Houghton's car. That is going to bring about the safety car, I'm afraid to say. Marshals haven't quite got the gap in the traffic. So Paul Traherne dives up the inside of Joshua Law. Now, was that before the safety car boards were displayed? Can't quite tell from that angle. No, it doesn't look as though as yet that part of the circuit there were yellow flags. Can't quite tell. Safety car is out, we do know that. Paul Traherne may have to give the position back. Well, the yellow flag is there, that's for sure. But was the yellow flag out when Paul Traherne overtook? Not for me to worry about. So the safety car will come out and pick up the race leader. So now the safety car accelerates on towards the start-finish line. In the background you can see the stricken car being pushed back down the pit lane, which tends to suggest that if that were the cause for the safety car, the cause has now been cleared, and therefore this could be a very short safety car intervention that's required here. So the safety car will slow everybody down. It does mean that for Tom Stoughton and Neil Burrows and Michael Gibbons, they're all going to be back being nose to tail again, squabbling for the lead. There is David Houghton's car. It has indeed now been pushed out of harm's way. So been a troubled day really for David Houghton, as they did 0 laps in qualifying, and let's hope it's not the same issue. But it does look rather worrying that it's just going to be one of those days maybe for David Houghton. Let's hope that the 2010 Pinto champion can get the car sorted, ready for the second race that's coming up later on today for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000s Championship. So the lights should go out on the safety car, one would have thought, this time through, unless there's something else we're not aware of. But I think we've counted for everybody that's gone missing. We know what happened to John Eiley, because his car stopped on the start-finish line before we got the race underway. We saw Peter Williams' car slowing down out on the circuit. Don't know where he stopped, but he stopped a couple of laps earlier, so had that have been in harm's way, that would have been dealt with. And we've now seen David Houghton's car pushed in towards the pit lane, and those are the 3 cars at the moment that we know have had issues out on track somewhere. So I think on the basis we've accounted for them all. Now somebody's looking very smoky there. Is that Keith Missom possibly? That looked a little bit smoky as it came out. And yes, it was. It's the 24 car. Keith Missom is not for much longer in this race, I fear, as well. So not quite sure what the problem is with Keith Missom's car, but you can see it in the background. But the safety car peels its way into the pit lane, and we get the race back underway. So Tom Stoughton, the pole sitter, accelerates his way down towards Redgate corner, but we are 3 wide for second place now, as Neil Burrows is under attack from Michael Gibbons, but also Dominic Lesniewski looking to try and squeeze his way up the inside, and he does so. There's a little bit of almost contact between the pair of them. Lesniewski then runs a little bit wide, and Michael Gibbons, who was briefly down to 4th, finds himself coming out of the corner in second place. So it's Michael Gibbons, the reigning Duratec champion, up into second place. Dominic Lesniewski sitting there in 3rd place. 4th now is Josh Law, who's up into 4th place. And I'm afraid to say, bundled down into 5th position now, it's a man who qualified on the outside of the front row of the grid, which is Neil Burrows. Into the pit lane, not unsurprisingly, did come Keith Missom, with problems befalling his car. I thought this morning he qualified out of position. I mentioned that at the start of the feed, that he was a little bit lower down than I'd expected, but maybe that is still the same mechanical issue that caused him trouble in qualifying. But it certainly looks very smoky, didn't it, Keith's car? And hopefully they'll be able to sort that out, that it's more of a leak rather than a terminal issue. Now this is Grant Gibson. He is down in 20th position. He's got tucked up right behind him Mike Fry, who is a former Pinto champion. Mike Fry, he's like 2nd in the Pinto class at the moment. So This is going to be 4th position in the race, which is going to be something like 19th and 20th position. They have swapped over since last time they came over the start-finish line, because Mike Fry was ahead of Grant Gibson, but has lost out to him over the course of that lap. As for our class leaders, well, leading Duratec A is Tom Stoughton and leading the race overall. Duratec B is being led by the number 41 car in 8th place, which is Giles Billingsley at this stage. Leading Class B for Pintos is car number 28, which is John Owen. He's down in 12th position. Pinto A is being led by the number 69 car, which is going to be Ross Hyatt. And the historic class, as we almost have a little bit of contact there, Josh Law and Neil Burrows absolutely together, and Paul Treherne's in the mix as well, all busy fighting away, sticking their elbows out for what is going to be at 4th, 5th and 6th position, and now 7th place as well, as trying to get in on the mix as well comes James Barwell at the wheel of number 77 car, dives up the inside of Josh Law, takes the place away. So fantastic battle going on between all of those. I was going to say, yeah, leading the Pinto Historic class is Nick Johnson on his return to the championship in 16th position at this stage. But this fight that's occurring for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place, it has been absolutely great value for money at this stage. And no matter where you look, there are battles down through the order. This is Nick Johnson, and he is coming under pressure from the number 69 car of Ross Hyatt that sits behind. They are both fighting away in their respective classes as well, both leading their individual classes. So Pinto Historic class being led by Nick Johnson on his return to the series, as Neil Burrows dives at the inside of Paul Treherne at McLean's corner, squeezes his way through. So that's going to be back up into, what's that, 4th position, isn't it, for Paul Treherne. He is now under attack from the next of the cars behind, which is number 77 car in the hands of James Barwell. Now that car looks, I don't know, but that car looks like Michael Gibbons' car from last year. Being pushed away is Dave Houghton, so he is out of qualifying having done 0 laps, out of the race having only done 2, I'm afraid to say. Peter Snowden, car number 32, long-time Sports 2000 racer, is circulating. We just saw his car there with the number 46 car sitting not that far behind. That'll be Trevor Welsh, the 2 red cars. But for Chris Snowden, it's a Tiger. For Trevor Welsh, it's the Lola. And there is Trevor Welsh now, threading his way through Coppice corner. And who's behind them as well? That's Clive Steeper, isn't it, that's behind them at the wheel of the number 17 car, the Tiger SC80. So on towards the brakes, towards the conclusion of yet another lap. David Gorse at the wheel of his MCR, turning his way through the old hairpin. He's the last of the runners at the moment, down in 25th position for those cars that are still circulating. And this is another good little fight as well that we've got here. At the front of the queue is Nick Bates, by the look of things. Yeah, it's Nick Bates, then Roger Donnan, then the number 42 car, which is going to be Sebastian Bamsey for this particular race. And Sebastian Bamsey has got John Owen not too far behind as well. So this is a great little fight that's going on, as Nick Bates having to defend there. So that's 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th places altogether. New fastest lap of the race for Michael Gibbons last time through, a 1 minute 8.39. So that is now over a second quicker than the previous Duratec lap record. 1 minute 9.5 was Patrick Sharrington's lap record. Well, that has been shattered by Michael Gibbons in this race. 1 minute 8.930 for him. So Michael Gibbons on a charge, and at the moment closing in on the race leader. So it's worth just maybe keeping an eye on exactly what's going on. Oh, well, I say that, and as soon as I say it, that's a commentator's curse. Michael Gibbons through the gravel trap on the exit of McLean's corner and has rotated the car through 180 degrees. The reigning Duratec champion only saw the end of it, didn't see the start of it. Ah, right, but also involved in something that looks like Chris Snowden's car. So that is Chris Snowden and Michael Gibbons, who look potentially to have come together there, and Chris Snowden's car looks rather stranded towards the edge of the circuit. Michael Gibbons through the gravel and no doubt with damage, but that is going to mean, I'm afraid to say, another safety car period will be required. So the safety car is on standby. Problems there, and retirements also for Mike Fry, I'm afraid to say, that is. So hand aloft, the Tiger SC79, a car that harks back to the very early days of Sports 2000 racing. It started in 1977, that's a 1979 chassis that Mike's racing, and I'm afraid to say that Mike Fry is out of the race. Like the driver who I mentioned earlier on in the off-season developed with Sue Stockdale the Sports 2000 podcast, and thanks to the support of Broadtown Brewery as well for getting involved in that. So search Facebook for Broadtown Brewery and you can order online as well from them. So unfortunately that is Clive Steeper out of the Mike Fry out of the race. Clive Steeper that's been involved in putting the podcast together. So there's, you can see Michael Gibbons' car to the very right of the screen there. You won't see Chris Snowdon's because it's in the dip that exists between McLean's Corner and Coppice. So it's going to take a while just to recover those two cars that we had. Whilst we're under safety car, let's just guide you through the order at this stage. So there's a safety car, number 26, which is Tom Stoughton, leads the race. Second place is the car that's third in the queue. It's the red and black car, which is Dominic Lesniewski, that's there running in second place in the race. Third is number 35, which is Neil Burrows. Fourth is 71, which is Paul Traherne. Fifth is 77, James Barwell, and sixth, number 91, which is Joshua Law. Seventh place, all of those are in Class A, the top six, by the way, so Duratec A. In seventh place is the leading car from Duratec B, so that's a class leader, number 41, which is Giles Billingsley. In eighth place is number 4, local man Nick Bates. Ninth place is 34, which is Roger Donnan. And in 10th place, that's another class leader. That is the number 28 car, that is John Owen, that's there in 8th place. He leads Class B at this stage. Other class leaders that we've got are down in 15th position, car number 96, which is Nick Johnson, multiple former champion, leads the Pinto Historic class. And we've also still got number 69 leading its class as well, which is Ross Hyatt, who leads the Pinto class. So they give you our class leaders at this stage. 9 minutes of the race to go. Safety car out for the second time. The first one was very brief because of David Houghton's issue, trying to get into pit lane entry where the car didn't quite make it. There's a bit of sweeping up and bodywork that sits on the edge of the circuit there. Where's Chris Snowdon's car? It's gone. Right, so, oh no, it's still there. So it looks as though it's down on the right-hand rear, doesn't it? So maybe a little bit of contact as Michael Gibbons was trying to lap Chris Snowdon, and there's obviously a disagreement as to which piece of tarmac each was expecting the other to be on at the time. Trundling his way also down the pit lane, we just briefly saw there David Gorst. So David Gorst, another car that's headed into retirement, I'm afraid to say. So that's Mike Fry, Chris Snowdon, Michael Gibbons, Keith Mizzen, David Houghton, Peter Williams and John Eiley, all of whom have had various problems befall them in this race, but still 22 cars out there and circulating, or 21 now that we've had into the pit lane David Gorst. And one thing it does do is it bottles everybody back up again, and we've seen just how fantastic the battles have been through the orders, with certainly even at the sharp end as well, with Dominic Lesniewski and Neil Burrows, Paul Traherne, James Barwell, Josh Law, all busy squabbling away. There's the stricken car of Chris Snowdon being lifted out of harm's way. That will be positioned back up as close as they can to the barriers on it. Heading back down pit lane though. So back into the race is going to come David Gorst. He'll have lost another lap. Just being held at pit lane exit until the whole field of cars has gone through. But his black and orange MCR should be able to rejoin the race very shortly. So most of the drivers still weaving from side to side so as to try and maintain that tyre and brake temperature. Remember, we'll be back for another race here at Donington Park for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship later on today as well. So another 25-minute race to cap off their racing weekend. That is scheduled to get underway with the red lights going out and the race starting at 18:25. So the stream will go live probably about 5 minutes before that. So maybe just keep checking social media and checking wherever website you've come through to watch this footage. So about 18:20 might be worth just double checking to see if we have run through the programme effectively this afternoon with all of the other races that we've got going on at Donington Park. If we can start that race earlier, we will be doing, absolutely. But the flip side of that is that if there are a few delays, the race might start a little bit later and the stream might not go live until after that time. So keep looking in, stay in touch with us. There is Michael Gibbons' car. Now, what are they going to do with that? They're just going to leave that where it is. It's a long way through the gravel, so they might opt just to leave that one where it is, or possibly just push the car back up against the barriers. The marshals, providing that is, of course, that there's no suspension damage to it and it can freewheel into that position. So lights are still on the safety car. Lights go out on the safety car. Right, so we're going to go racing this time through. Michael Gibbons' car is not going to be repositioned. They've got Chris Snowden's into a safe place. Fantastic work by the marshals and the recovery crews. So it's now up to Tom Stoughton as to when he wants to get his foot down and propel the gun over the start-finish line and get racing back underway. Remember, no overtaking until you reach the start-finish line, but it's been a really good restart from Tom Stoughton because there was a back marker between himself, that was Andrew Butler's car, and Dominic Lesniewski, so there's nothing Dominic Lesniewski could do. He had to wait until the start-finish line before he could overtake, so that's really aided Tom Stoughton and put Lesniewski under pressure from Neil Burrows for second position. Look at the gap, and that was all to do with that back marker being there as the second car in the queue, and Dominic Lesniewski just knew that it might be the green flag's waving, but until we get to the start-finish line, I can't overtake the back marker, which means that Tom Stoughton just had that opportunity to break away very, very slightly, and he's already starting to disappear up the distance for the scrap that's brewing over second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth position once more. So James Barwell back under pressure from Josh Law. Those two cars so evenly matched for pace throughout the course of this race. A bit of damages there just to the rear bodywork of Neil Burrows' car. It just seemed to be bouncing around very slightly, didn't it, the fiberglass? Maybe just a hairline crack in it that's just causing it to flex that a little bit more. Won't worry him because he's going to be pushing as hard as he can. Black car with its yellow flashes is Paul Traherne. He sits there in fourth place. That's Josh Law, number 91, with a little bit of a flick midway through the Roberts chicane, accelerating his way down the start-finish line. And not that far behind them, watch out for the Duratec B-class leader. That's the white car with its gold and its black flashes to it, which is Giles Billingsley. So he has managed to catch up with them as a result of that safety car period, and he's not sitting that far behind. He's in seventh place. So it's sort of second through to seventh that are in this train of cars. 6 cars heading down in towards the braking area for the old hairpin. Dribbling their way through the right-hander, using all of the curves, but no more goes James Barwell in his efforts to try and close up against Paul Traherne, the car that lies ahead. Neil Burrows in third place is looking to see whether he can move a step higher up on the podium. So less than 3.5 minutes to go up towards Coppice Corner. This is for the 6th time of asking. As we heard from Michael Gibbons at the start of the programme, value for money in Creative Funding Sports 2000 racing. Such powerful cars, the lap times that they do because of the aerodynamics that they've got as well. Really is good value for money. It's a very friendly paddock as well, and is a great introduction into racing. That's why we see so many drivers drive in Sports 2000 and stay in it. But this year we've got some new ones as well. Paul Traherne trying all the way around the outside of Neil Burrows. He had a better exit coming out of Roberts. Neil Burrows defends, but now he's going to lose out on the switchback as they head on towards the top of Hollywood. So Paul Traherne picks up the final podium spot. Neil Burrows drops down now into 4th position and is instantly coming under pressure from James Barwell's car that sits behind. That's the blue car with its lighter blue flashes. What can James Barwell do? Nothing down at the old hairpin is the answer. Neil Burrows try and sort of stem the flow and make sure that he hangs on to 4th or even go one better and get back past Paul Traherne. We'll have to wait and see, but for the moment it's another gun that has moved its health back ahead of an MCR. Guns seem to be suited to this circuit today here at Donington Park because at the moment Tom Stoughton leads in his gun. Second is Dominic Lesniewski at the wheel of the MCR. Third is the number 35 car of Neil Burrows, and that's an off, I'm afraid, for Giles Billingsley. That's at the exit of McLean's Corner, where the Duratec B leader had the off, and depending on how quickly he could recover that, about 7 seconds behind him was number 34 Roger Donnan. That might have lost him the place, might have lost him the lead of the class. We'll have to pick up on that at the end of the lap. So Lesniewski, Paul Traherne, Neil Burrows, James Barwell, Josh Law, all still together for second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth places, flicking their way onto the top of Hollywood and down through the crane of curves with just 1.5 minutes to go. So next time through, Tom Stoughton will be on to his final lap of this first race of the season for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship. And well, certainly the podium isn't decided yet. The top 6 without question is not decided as yet. And just for confirmation, that spin, I'm afraid to say, for Giles Billingsley did mean that he lost the lead of the Duratec B class, because Roger Donnan now, the number 34 car, moves up into 8th position. Giles Billingsley lost 6 places and drops to 3rd in the class and 13th overall with that spin. Good fight still going on as well. Roger Donnan there is the Duratec B leader. He's still bottled up behind Nick Bates at the moment, so it's Class A cars for the Duratec category, occupying the top 7 places. Roger Donnan, the number 34 car, is the first of those that runs in Class B for the Duratec cars. So those are cars manufactured slightly earlier. Down and in towards the braking area for the Roberts chicane. Bouncing over the curbs. Roger Donnan still under pressure though as well. He can't rest on his laurels, can he? Because he's still got cars sitting behind him, which is John Owen not too far behind. But for the leaders, they're down through the crane of curves and in towards the braking area for the old hairpin for the final time. And this is the fight for 2nd and 3rd position. Dominic Lesniewski under pressure from the car that sits not too far behind him, Paul Traherne, but Paul Traherne has got his mirrors pretty full now of Neil Burrows, who seems to be coming back all of a sudden to try and muster something, and I think just ran a little bit wide there, Paul Traherne, and that's all Neil Burrows needs surely to try and grab the position away. There goes Dominic Lesniewski. It is position gained. In fact, it's 2 places lost for Paul Traherne, because also James Barwell squeezed his way through but then lost it mid-corner at Coppice. Up towards the checkered flag will come Tom Stoughton, but we have had a bit of a sort out for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th places on that final lap. Tom Stoughton will claim the win in the opening round of the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship here at Donington Park on the national circuit. Dominic Lesniewski finishes in 2nd place. It is going to be Neil Burrows that comes through to finish in 3rd place, Paul Traherne in 4th and Joshua Law in 5th position. In the end, 6th place. Is it going to be? It will be the recovering car, I think, that will finish in 6th place of James Barwell. 7th place will go the way of Nick Bates, and Roger Donnan will be the first of the non-Class A cars home, finishing in 8th place overall, the car number 34. So he claims his class, finishing in 8th place. 9th place will go the way of the number 28 car, which is John Owen, and completing the top 10 is number 42, which is Sebastian Bamsey. Other class winners, well, we will have Tom Stoughton claiming the win overall in his class. Roger Donnan will be a class winner of Duratec B. In Pinto B, it's the number 28 car of John Owen that will be the winner of Pinto B. Nick Johnson, the former champion returning, will pick up the historic class win. And I think almost the last of the cars to take the checkered flag will be the Pinto A class winner, which will be the number 69 car of Ross Hyatt. So that is a win for Tom Stoughton. We heard at the top of the programme Michael Gibbons was looking forward to picking up where they'd left off, himself and Tom Stoughton, in the battle for the championship. Well, whilst it's a win for Tom Stoughton in the opening round, it was a retirement for our reigning Duratec champion Michael Gibbons. But that is just the first of 13 rounds of the 2021 season. And there'll be plenty more opportunity for them to lock horns, not least of which will be later on this afternoon, where we'll be streaming live once more, whether it be via the Sports 2000 Facebook page or race.tv. Thank you for joining us. So cars working their way in towards the pit lane. The drivers then will head in towards the Parc Ferme area, where the cars will all be checked that they comply with the technical regulations of the championship, and then once the quick checks and balances have been done, including of course making sure that they are running to the correct minimum weights and everything, you see what that means to Tom Stoughton. He is as pleased as punch with that one, delighted with his race win. All went perfectly to plan from him, not necessarily all the way, because he lost the lead at the start and had to work his way back into contention, but pleased as punch with that one. So in towards Parc Ferme they will go, and we should now hopefully be able to guide you through the results. Tom Stoughton claimed the win by 4.8 seconds in the end from Dominic Lesniewski in 2nd place, and Neil Burrows was 3rd. Paul Traherne, Josh Law and James Barwell were 4th, 5th and 6th, with Nick Bates in 7th place, and Roger Donnan claiming his class as he came home in 8th place. John Owen was 9th, and Sebastian Bamsey completed the top 10. After Sebastian Bamsey in 10th place, Mike Turner was 11th. Despite the spin, Giles Billingsley finished in 12th in the end, with Ashley Law, Richard Cook and Grant Gibson wrapping up the top 15. Nick Johnson claimed top honours in the Pinto Historic class as he finished in 17th place, with Trevor Welsh, Clive Steeper, Ross Hyatt and Andrew Butler, who was a lap down, completing the top 20. After that, it was Josh Needham in 21st place, David Gorst in 22nd, and then from then on in, Michael Gibbons, Mike Fry, Chris Snowden, Keith Midden, David Houghton, Peter Williams and John Eiley, they all had problems from 23rd places backwards. So Tom Stoughton claims the first win of the season in the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship. Who's going to claim the second win of the season? Because we've got that race coming up later on today at around about 18:25. You can watch it live. So thanks for joining us for this first race of the season. But from everybody at Donington Park, we'll catch you later on today. Goodbye.